Okay, I'm going to demonstrate the couple different ways to tie this bowline knot that I usually use. So first pass the rope through my harness if I've got it. I like the left-handed variant. There's two different ways you can do it. You can either use your right hand with the working end or your left hand with the working end. Since I'm left-handed, I'll use the left hand variant, but I can show both. So pull up an appropriate amount of rope through my tie-in points, and you just play around with the amount so that you have just a 10 centimeter tail at the end. So it's not too much for this knot. It doesn't take up a lot of rope. So with the standing end of the rope and my hand palm up, I do a little turn and then pass the rope through that turn that I made. So again, pinching this together, take the working end on the back side and then turn, and that creates the loop of the bowline. Then this wraps around the standing end. Okay, I don't have enough tail, so I'll go ahead and make it a little bit further. This now starts the loop of the bowline. You wrap it around the standing end of the rope and then back through that first loop you made. And it's important that this tail is on the inside of the bowline. If it's on the outside, then you've wrapped around the standing end the wrong way. It's I forget the word, what it's called, but it's not a bowline. It's something slightly different. So at this point, you want to kind of give this a little snug, but not too tight, because we're going to need to work rope back through all of these loops. So at this point, this tail goes outside and then back through your main tie-in loop. So when you're tying this in, usually it ends up orienting this way since your tie-in points are vertical. So you'll pass it through that loop around, basically following the same kind of turn as this nipping loop, and then pass through the collar on the outside. So this creates the Yosemite finish. And the Yosemite finish is important that this nipping loop is above the Yosemite part of the bowline knot. Give it a little bit of a tighten, but not too tight. And then the final finish that I use to really secure this knot is, because this is a fairly secure knot at this point, but it's not going to move around on you much, but I also dislike having the tail going up away towards my climber side of the rope. I want this to be free so it's easy to clip with. So I'm going to wrap this around the standing end and then dive through that nipping loop and the Yosemite loop that we made. So backing up one more time. So from here, you'll wrap around the top and then the back. So it should be on the outside. So if this, or the top, it's oriented this way. The top is the working end. Pass it around and then back through. And then at this point, you want to tighten everything up. And first, to tighten, start by pulling on the wear force would be generated by a climbing fall, so that'd be on this part of the loop, and then the standing end. That tightens the inner bowline knot, which is what does all the holding of the fall. And then I will pull on this portion that I just the final wraparound part to cinch this bit up towards the bowline. And then lastly, pull down on the tail, and that makes it a fairly tight and well-dressed knot at the end. So yeah, and then you can take this tail, this is plenty. You can take this tail and pass it through your top tie-in point so it follows, and then it's pretty much completely out of the way while you're climbing. Makes for really easy to clip. knot, and it's super easy to untie even after taking a massive fall on it with a fuzzy rope. That's the main reason why I've switched from tying it with the figure 8, because I've had some fuzzy ropes and I've spent way too much time untying them. Okay, so that's the left-handed variant. If I do a right-handed, then it's pretty much the same thing, except now I have to figure it out right-handed. Okay, so that's that first loop. Again, for these nipping loops that you create, you want the turned towards you part on top like that. So if I go back to the left-hand one, which I'm more comfortable with, so it's turning towards me on top. So, all right, so there's my first part of the bowline, and then it's stays on the inside part of the knot, and then that's the single bowline finished, and then we wrap around the outside, stay on the outside for our Yosemite finish. That's the Yosemite finish, and then we wrap around the top and dive back into the nipping loop. It's a little tight, so don't want to over tighten the knot before you've finished it. But if it's too loose, then dressing it becomes more of a pain. So that's just about enough tail. It's a little short, but just needs to be about your hand. Yeah, no, that's actually perfect, 10 centimeters. And then that knot is fully dressed. So again, what you're looking for is when you're inspecting this part of the knot, the nipping loop, should be on the inside, not on the outside. So this is not the nipping loop, this is what's going to basically cause all of the it does a lot of the holding power. So when a fall occurs, it's going to try to squeeze on this loop, and it's going to pinch all these pieces of rope together that are inside of it. So that's the main way that it holds itself. And then all these other turns and pass-throughs are just to stabilize the knot itself. The bowline, it's without any of these extra pieces, is incredibly strong. The problem with the bowline by itself, without extra stuff done with the tail, is that it will just kind of undo itself if you tie it loosely and subject it to load and unload. So variant loading will kind of untie the knot. So it's pretty easy to get it to be loose by itself. So that's why we have those extra parts to it. There's one other way to tie it, which I just saw, which is called the Snap Bowline, that gets you your starting bowline first. I just learned it, but let's see if I can do it. So here's the left-handed one. You just take you basically preform the bowline like that, and then the tail goes in, and since I want it on the outside, I'm gonna push it back through that the loop knot, and then pinching on these two and pulling on the standing end will create the bowline for you. So it's a slightly faster way to tie the first starting knot. Try to do that one more time the right-handed way. So first loop, and then pass a bite through the loop. Don't need too much. And then working in through the bite, pull it through the loop that you're tying in, and then pinch these two together so they don't move while you tighten, and just pull that collar back up. So This is the collar of the knot, and that's the nipping loop. And then that makes your single bowline.